The Conservative Party of Canada will be choosing its new leader this fall at the end of August. The four candidates running to replace Andrew Scheer are Peter MacKay, Erin O'Toole, Leslyn Lewis, and our next guest, Derek Sloan. Derek is a current Conservative MP who was elected to represent the ridings of Hastings, Lennox, and Addington in Ontario in the 2019 federal election. Derek, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you for having me.
Now, first of all, why do you think you're the best candidate for the job?
Well, we have a range of candidates in this race, but I'm the only one who stands for genuinely conservative policies and ideas across the entire spectrum. I will never compromise on those principles when confronted with Liberal Party attacks. Just to give you a few examples, I'm the only candidate that's pledged to defund the World Health Organization, the only candidate that's pledged to getting Canada out of the Paris Agreement. I'm very strong on national sovereignty issues. And I'm the only person who has an immigration plan, a plan to reduce immigration and make sure that our immigration plan works for Canada. I'm very strong on free speech issues. I've been very clear on bills like Bill C-16 that can compel you to talk about other genders that you may not believe in or agree with. And I'm not going to apologize for those values. And I think most people would agree I've been the strongest on those issues that I've mentioned.
Now, speaking of bills, how about C-69 here in Alberta? We care a lot about our oil and gas sector. And Jason Kennedy would like to see it scrapped, but I mean, it's a federal issue. So what would you do about C-69 and help support our energy sector?
That's right. So I'm definitely against Bill C-69 and Bill C-48. But being the only candidate that's against the Paris Agreement, really scrapping those two bills isn't enough. We have to get out of the Paris Agreement. If we don't, it'll bring in some other regulation or some other carbon pricing in some way.
Now, many political pundits, Derek, are referring to MacKay and O'Toole as the red Tories and you and Leslyn Lewis as the true blue candidates, as in you're socially and fiscally conservative. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly socially and fiscally conservative in all ways. That's a true statement.
Now, the LGBTQ2+ community seems to always put a lot of pressure on all political leaders to march in their annual gay pride parade. Will you be willing to do so? Should you become the next leader of the CPC?
So it's interesting that this race has made whether or not you'd march in a pride parade a litmus test. And if that's the question that we have to answer, I've been very clear on that from the beginning. I'm not interested in marching in a parade like that. I mean, it's a free country. If other people want to do it, that's great. But I won't be marching as a leader. And I've been very clear on that from the beginning, unlike some of the other candidates.
Now, you are the first Seventh-day Adventist ever elected to the House of Commons, and you really haven't shied away from your faith very much. Let's flesh that out a little bit, Derek, and how God plays a major role in your decision-making, and how you lean on him for strength, wisdom, and discernment.
Yeah, I believe that God has a plan for everybody. And I believe that if we follow God in all things, he will take us to places that we may not have expected to go. And I feel called in this position. I feel called to enter politics to serve the country and to make it a place where everybody can prosper. And I certainly everything I do with an eye to believing I'll have to answer to God for it at the end of the day. So that's something that's integral to my life.
Now, Derek, let's say you become the next leader of the Conservative Party of Canada and possibly Canada's next Prime Minister. Would you allow MPs within your party, your rank and file, to vote with their hearts and conscience? In other words, those who maybe support abortion and gay rights?
Yeah, so you know what? I believe that each MP is accountable to the people that elect them. And I believe that they need to make the decisions that they feel are best. And sometimes I may disagree with those, but I don't believe in a top-down structure that twists people's arms. I think a lot of socially conservative people like myself have been concerned about similar things, and I don't think it would be fair to apply the same pressure to others. So I'm certainly in favor of free votes in Parliament.
Would you reopen the abortion debate?
Well, I have a pro-life plan that addresses a lot of different things in relation to abortion. And, it's funny, there's a lot of sort of discussion about whether or not that we should do that. But we've never really had an abortion debate. We had some laws that were struck down. We tried to come back with some other laws, and we never did. we're one of the only countries in the entire world that doesn't have any laws in relation to abortion, and it creates a legal vacuum. So I think that Parliament is a place to discuss challenging issues, and I haven't shied away from that.
Now, once a vaccine for COVID-19 is found, would you recommend that the drug become mandatory for Canadians or optional?
Well, I certainly am not in favor of mandatory anything when it comes to medical treatments. I believe that people need to have a choice whether or not to whether or not to choose it. And I've been critical of the fact that Canada is partnering with a company in China, CanSino Biologics, which is related to the Chinese military. I don't think we should be dealing with China at all when it comes to doing anything to do with COVID.
Now, what qualities would you say you have over another believer who's running in this leadership race, Leslyn Lewis? Because I've noticed, on social media, sometimes there's a little bit of going back and forth between you two as true blue conservatives.
Well, yes. Well, I think that in this race we need to do our best to distinguish ourselves from others, and I've been clear on the fact that I appreciate Ms. Lewis's stand on social issues. But we're not the same candidate, and I have certainly gone above and beyond in not only highlighting social conservative issues, but also highlighting issues like the Paris Agreement. Leslyn Lewis, for example, does not want to pull us out of the Paris Agreement. I have an immigration plan that reduces immigration and basically promotes housing and housing affordability in Canada. I've also been clear that we shouldn't be funding the World Health Organization. So there are a variety of sort of Canadian sovereignty issues that I've highlighted. I have a more robust free speech platform in my view. It's nothing against the other candidates, but of course it is incumbent on us to make differences. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not voting for two people; you're voting for one. And I'm trying to share with people the reasons why they should vote for me.
Many people argue that the two top dogs are Peter MacKay and Aaron O'Toole. And Derek, I mean, you're dreaming here. I mean, these guys are well known. They're rock stars there on the Hill. So what is it going to take to defeat these guys and actually win the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada?
Well, I really, I really don't agree that this race is, going to go in a particular direction. With the amount of sort of positive feedback that we've been getting, I firmly believe. I mean, some of the data that's come out says that half of people are undecided. I believe I get hundreds of emails every day that say, you know what, Derek, I don't answer any surveys. I'm voting for you. I think we're going to see an upset in this race. That's my belief.
Now, there's another controversy surrounding Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Derek, and the We Charity scandal. This isn't the first ethics issue involving our Prime Minister. We don't have to look too far back with SNC-Lavalin affair, the Aga Khan trip, not to mention the blackface controversy. Why does it appear that nothing really sticks to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
Well, it's interesting, and part of it is the fact that Canadians are disengaged from politics generally, the average person. I think his time is coming. I mean, we had a perfect storm in the last election, but our conservative leader at that time wasn't willing to stand on values issues. And unlike some of the other candidates in this race, I know that values issues and Canadian sovereignty issues are a key to expanding and opening up our base. There are so many people who don't even vote because they don't see a moral difference between the Liberals and the Conservatives. And, the Liberals have gone so far when it comes to their, radical gender agenda. They're so pro-abortion. I mean, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, we can all agree there needs to be some rules relating to abortion. And we just refuse as conservatives over and over to dig in our toes. I know for a fact that there's so many Canadians, new Canadians who hold these family values, and we can expand our base with these people.
What will it take to really defeat the Trudeau Liberals? Now, how will you personally make those inroads in Quebec where there's so many seats to be won?
Well, I was just in Quebec actually touring for a week, and I did two interviews in French, and we did a little search on the Google statistics. And out of the four candidates, two of whom were touring at the time in Quebec, so Peter MacKay and myself, I was getting 60% of all Google searches in the entire province of Quebec. Peter MacKay was 22%, and the other candidates were about 10 or 11. I believe right now, for example, my immigration policy, which is to reduce the number of immigrants and to give provinces control over immigration, Quebecers love that. So, I mean, yes, they are more secular in certain ways, but they have a latent nationalism that we can tap into as well. And I firmly believe that I can do very well in Quebec. I'm positive.
So your French is pretty good so far?
Well, it is. I mean, when I got into this race, I wasn't speaking much French at all, and now I'm at a position where I'm able to do interviews in French. Obviously, I'm learning, but many people have taken note of, wow, that guy's really learned that French pretty quick, and some have said that. Given a year or two, I'll probably be better than the whole lot. And that was the Toronto Star that said that, so must be true.
Derek, our deficit is over $340 billion and our debt over $1 trillion. What's your plan to fix our fiscal mess and get us back in the black?
Well, there's no magical answer, but the answer is the same as it's always been. It means cutting government waste, and I've highlighted a bunch of things that I would cut. We fund the World Health Organization almost $1 billion. We fund foreign abortions, again, almost $1 billion. We have a media bailout for the mainstream media. All of these things and more need to be cut. We need to get our energy sector back on track. That means getting out of Paris Agreement, scrapping Bill C-69, C-48, and then we have to cut regulations and cut taxes for small business and entrepreneurs. And I make a distinction between Canadian small business and big business and international corporations. Not that they're all bad, but we need to focus on made in Canada, and I have a great plan to do that.
What plan do you have for our farmers here, especially in Alberta? A lot of the farming families are hurting right now with COVID and the fact that China's still not receiving Canadian canola.
Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, when it comes to China, we really have to play hardball, play tougher with them. And when it comes to our farmers, we need to remember that our food supply needs to be a top priority. So, I believe generally, yes, the government needs to cut waste. The government needs to cut handouts to corporations. But when we're investing in farmers, when we're protecting our farmers, that's not handouts, that's not waste. So that's something that I'm in favor of.
The controversy surrounding the extradition of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou continues. Many argue that China arrested the two Canadians, Michael Spavor, Michael Kovrig, in retaliation to the arrest of Meng Wanzhou. Now, the PM has stated that he will not do a prisoner exchange because it'll make other Canadians' lives, it'll put their lives in jeopardy. So how can we safely bring home the two Michaels? I mean, Derek, they've been charged with spying and could face the death penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Justin Trudeau on that in terms of we absolutely cannot do hostage diplomacy. We can't do a trade. Now, of course, he says that on one hand, and then he is doing everything. He's afraid to even use the word Taiwan in the House of Commons. So the Liberals have been extremely obsequious in relation to China. We need to take a new approach with China. We need to work with our allies. I mean, the United States right now has the guts, as it were, to stand up to China, and we need to do the same. I believe that we need to take Chinese infiltration, Communist Party linked Chinese infiltration seriously. And we've seen CSIS reports for the last couple of decades talking about, money related to crime and money related to the kleptocracy of the Communist Party, buying up our real estate, cozying up to municipal politicians, cozying up to even higher level politicians. We have to take this seriously and arrest anybody who is, basically spying for China on our territory.
Now let's talk about the relationship with the United States and how important that really is, our biggest trading partner. How long should we keep the border closed to non-essential travel?
Well, here's the thing. I'm skeptical, and I know that the majority of Canadians would actually disagree with me, but I'm actually skeptical as to how useful a border closure is at this point. There's all kinds of Canadians. I have a friend here who has a good job in the States, and his family's here, and he's torn between two. I mean, if he goes to the States, he can't come back every weekend. He's got to quarantine when he gets there. He can't be coming back and forth. I believe that we need to have maybe not fully open borders right now, but I'm certainly skeptical as to a complete closure. And there's so many businesses that are dependent on tourists that are going to be just slammed this summer with what's going on. So, I of course promote safety and all these things, but playing it too safe has consequences as well.
So how can we really improve our relationship with the United States?
Well, you know, I think really, I mean, if we take a look at how Justin Trudeau has reacted to Donald Trump, you know, he said things behind his back. He's promoted his sort of left wing causes at the expense of legitimate sort of trade discussions. I firmly believe that the United States can be our greatest friend. I've said we need to put more money into our military to meet our NATO commitments. I think if it was known and felt that Canada was pulling its weight in some of these agreements, we could get more. Whether it's softwood lumber agreements, whether it's with our farming or other types of trade arrangements. I believe we can get better agreements and more sound concessions from the United States.
Conservative Party of Canada leadership candidate Derek Sloan, thanks for joining me today from Ontario.
Thank you.
On behalf of all of us here at BCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless. Thanks so much for watching.